Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me here today. As far as PE goes, absolutely. So we actually we're I'll get to it later as far as the scouting program that the DoD is using this for right now. But we have a community that we're building for the DoD that includes private equity, venture capital, accelerators, people who are looking for new technologies, as well as people who are executing technologies within the DoD space. But just as an introduction, hi everybody. My name is Dave Maraska. I'm President and CEO of AI Strategy, and the product is Nine High. So Nine High is something very novel and different, although I've been building it since 1999, and I've got an awful lot of data that we've captured this in here. Nine High is a decision guidance platform. It acts really like a GPS for your business. It resides, the way I look at it, it helps to coordinate. It's a framework that helps to coordinate the AI agents that we have built in. There's about 11 or 12 of them in there right now, as well as humans. So this is very much human in a loop. And this is something that we want to take and spread across the entire enterprise. So what this presentation is going to illustrate is how Nine High assists people really throughout your whole enterprise in using business intelligence to evaluate, qualify, and quantify projects and activities that enable go forward roadmaps. We're able to assess where something is now as far as a technology or capability or even a stage of the company, where the current status is, what the objectives are that you have for the next stage of it, and then what is that go forward roadmap based on risk assessment. We define risks as everything in the pathway that can really stop that technology from being successful. And then we want to be able to burn those things down so you can be successful in growing the business, introducing that technology, growing or improving the ROI, whatever it might be. So this is a business guidance platform that models products and services, your organization, and the applications. And that's whether or not the applications are actually within a company, or if the application is, say, the customer that you're bringing to an external market. We can really do it either way. It's the same holistic power set guidance system, regardless of what the scenario is. So Nine High, we're going to show you is a dynamic digital platform. It's really the fastest way to upgrade your business and bring AI guidance into it. Literally, people can log in and start using Nine High in a day. There is integration work we can do, and I'll show you how that stage works. But like for the proof of concept programs, we can literally start in a day. Going to the next slide. So one reason why I'm really excited to show this to people is because Nine High actually started back in 1999 on spreadsheets for private enterprises. So I was actually running a business unit for North and South America for a $3 billion Japanese company. And it was right over here in New York City. And during my first orientation, they brought me over to Japan, introduced me to the 170 engineers or so and all the different business folks that I was going to be able to guide. And then they showed me 700 different technologies that they had developed and had on the shelf. The Japanese culture is one that doesn't like to keep engineers idle or scientists idle. So they just develop things up until they have a prototype and go back and start developing more stuff. And so they said, okay, what would you like to commercialize? What do you want to bring forward? And I was stunned. I was stunned that they had that many things on the shelf that could be used. So Nine High started off with really matchmaking, understanding the technology, understanding the application, and what should you invest. So out of these 700 options, what was the best choice? Because the Japanese culture, if anybody's worked with them, or if maybe some of you are Japanese, is very analytical. So they were challenging me as far as, why I would choose certain technologies to bring to certain markets. What does the team look like that's going to do it? How can it be successful? And that's really how Nine High was born, is trying to solve those problems. So we started building that out, and it took several years to cut to the overall power set format that we have. And then 9/11 happened, and I was living and working right in Manhattan, and of course the towers went down. I actually went and dug for a few days, and I wanted to do something more for the country. So there's a research laboratory here in Long Island called Dayton T. Brown that would do qualification work for Boeing, for Northrop Grumman, for Lockheed, for all the big contractors, as well as medium small businesses. And basically, is a laboratory that was right in the middle of what they call the Valley of Death. They see a lot of projects that can fail, and they actually had a 90% failure rate. So how do we determine, how to make more successful projects going through that laboratory? And that I'll explain kind of how that worked. But again, it was managing very high volumes. I got them to about 3,000 projects a year, and only with a staff of about 126 people. And so that was an awful lot of work, and it was the Nine High process that guided us and actually started making a lot more successful outcomes for all the different projects that were run through that lab. So what we want to do with Nine High now, so what we're going to show you is a complete comprehensive demonstration of this. But again, it's DoD funded, so all the users in right now are from the DoD. And then we're bringing in people from commercial industry and bringing in private enterprise, private equity folks to invest into different technologies to assist the government. But what we're looking for is that proof of concept. So we are looking for large to medium-sized enterprises that can do a sizable POC, something similar to what we're doing with the U.S. government. Although, of course, you're going to have a whole different set of parameters, which the 9High process can address. But that's where we started, and this is where we're going to as far as tying with the large and medium-sized enterprises. Just to mention real quick, there is this whole DOGE focus that's going on ever since the last election, and we're actually working with the congressional caucus, the DOGE caucus. So they're likely to be using us as a tool to help guide and understand how to make things actually more efficient within different parts of the government. So that should be interesting. So stay tuned if you'd like to get involved with that. And sort of the next step here is here. I just want to pause here and just let you think about this for a second, because again, this is decision guidance, and just want you to look at some of these things that we're addressing here. So there's a lot of problems that come up, within complex organizations, right? And a lot of there's thousands of decisions that are made every single day. So how do we make those decisions? How do we determine what we select in the first place? What do we work on? What's good for the business? And as we start to invest into those things and execute, how do we know that we've really mapped out the right path for that technology or for that investment? So these are the kinds of things that 9High can help your enterprise with, and not just your enterprise, but all the team stakeholders that are involved, whether it be suppliers, investors, stockholders, et cetera, along the way. So diving into 9High a little bit, how do we actually solve a lot of those problems? Well, we've got this power set system, and what the power set does is it looks at both whether the project is internal or external. We actually model, it's a comprehensive model for the business. So we look at what the product technologies are, what the services are that the company is offering, the team of stakeholders, personnel planning processes and finances, and the market, whether it's an internal project and you're considering the application within the organization, or if you're taking, say, a new technology, new service out to the marketplace, you need to be successful, and there's risks in that pathway. So one, what we do with our human team, this is very much human in the loop with AI assistance, is we model risks in these different categories. And then I'll get into the scoring system, how this works, but basically we start to break down complex problems into manageable pieces. And again, this framework is then going to guide the AI and the humans to work alongside each other to solve those problems. And what's important here is that we do this, we want to make sure we select the right technologies, the right investments in the first place. So that's a big part of what the DoD doesn't do well now, is they very often award to the wrong people for the wrong things, and they never have a chance of being successful. And then when we actually do invest into something, there's thousands of decisions that people make. And I know you guys see this every single day. There's thousands of decisions that people make at the strategic level, at the C level, and then also at the operational level. So what we want is we want to have human collaboration, and we want to have guidance that's provided to people as they're actually developing those technologies. And this is a multi-user, multi-company platform. So we can actually have multiple companies. You can have entire supply chains built into this to show how they work. And by the way, this is all available right now. You can go on and start using this tomorrow, log in and start an account. But I'll show you basically how we use this more. But basically, again, we identify risks in each of these three categories. And then we identify the success factors, all those things that are burned down risks in each of these 9 fundamental categories. And the way this works is these 9 categories are the framework. So these titles are always the same. It's always the same process that you're going to go through and that the company goes through whenever they're building a project, making an investment, or trying to grow or to analyze a business opportunity. So the nine parameters are what are always standard, and then we change up each of these success factors based on the risks of the specific pathway that the company has. So think of this as really, this is SWOT on steroids. I've been burned by SWOT many times when it wasn't set up and done properly, and I want to have a better system to do that. So that's really what we're talking about here, is looking
Dave,
at that
before we
readiness.
go,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, before we go to the next slide, one
Oh, sure.
of the things that we'll talk about, and Dave will talk about here in a few slides, but really as it goes through the demo phase, is these readiness levels. The TRL is really where the academic and the government really looks at, but is assessing that readiness level, and with the next slide, looking at the different types of stakeholders and how that moves it into it, will help facilitate how the input comes along. So let's go to the next slide.
Sure, and I think somebody has a hot mic there too. But yeah, so I didn't want to go too much into the readiness levels because it's very much a DoD speak thing, but they've got this whole standard for technology readiness levels. Basically, it says what the maturity of a technology is and what the risks are in front of it. So what we've done is we've taken that and applied it to the entire team of stakeholders and also for specific applications. And by doing that, we're able to see what the maturity is or what the risks are in front of something for an entire business organization, for those technologies of products and services, their organization, suppliers, partner organizations, as well as the markets that they're in. So thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Yeah. So what we're also doing here is, well, again, I'll take a minute and let you just kind of digest this a little bit. And I realize a lot of things here in 9High are new to you. So we're just trying to, again, get the overall concepts to you. I'll just let you look at this for a second.
Well, Dave, this is Mark. Can I opine for a second?
Oh, please go ahead.
So as a 9High user and a customer, I originally was using it the way it was originally intended, which was to measure and see how it would do with a partner a company I want to partner with to create some software, do some code development of some software. And that's what it was originally, I think, built for the DoD. But it's really apparent right away, once you start using the platform, that it's an analytic decision-making software that you can use within an enterprise for everything from a CFO using it to a CMO to a CIO to a CTO, because it's a decision-making platform. It mitigates risk. And then so I've got an entity that I'm working with that's got some really neat software. In my case, in my company, I plug in, the appropriate individuals, and with the bots that you use and the AI component of this, it enables us to have a score and a report that's analytical in nature, that's not only valuable to me as the CEO, but it's valuable to any investors that I might want to tap if they want to invest further. So these columns are just, the obvious columns. When I was out in the field years ago and I'm selling BPO services, I talked to a CIO or CTO that had a list of 1,000 different projects, and they'd only get to a couple every year. And what 9High does is it helps you tells you which projects you're going to be successful with, and then it helps you prioritize which projects are the best ones to go forward with. So with that,
Mark, why don't you do a quick 10-second introduction of yourself and Rome? These are one of our partners, guys. Well, I'm actually on the advisory board for Rome, and we partner together on some stuff.
My name is Mark Daly. I've been in the technology space for about 40 years, yes, and I used to have hair back then. I'm the CEO of Rome, and what we do is provide solutions to large enterprise companies. So I used to work for Rome, and I reconstituted the name and picked up the trademark and reconstituted some employees. And so we're starting where we left off when Siemens owned the company, and we do some government work and we do some private enterprise work. You'll be hearing more about us next year. So thank you for that, Tommy. But I'm a huge 9High advocate because it makes decisions safe and easy, and it's something that every large enterprise should be using, and it mitigates risk. And just in my career, I worked with all the big, everybody from NASA to, to Coca-Cola. Everybody in between, and it's this is something large enterprise should gravitate towards. And you saw in his earlier slide, he's working with the DoD right now. He mentioned he wants to do some enterprise POCs, and I'm looking forward to seeing how those work out, because it really does mitigate risk and it guarantees success. So I'll let you guys get back to it, but it's a great tool.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that.
And just to follow up with Mark real quick, is it does give you that qualitative, quantitative whole dynamic for each of those stakeholders within whatever it is within the enterprise that you are evaluating. So sorry to have hijacked the slide here for you, Dave.
That's okay. No, it's fine. And if other people want to jump in, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, so just recognize, folks, that, when I was running that large laboratory and we ran up to 3,000 projects a year, for their very complicated projects, with, and I was the senior executive of this laboratory for 7 years. So well over 15 to 17,000 very technical projects, and a lot of challenges and different types of challenges. And when you start to dig into things and peel back the onion a little bit, you do start to find out that it's not always just because of the technology. For example, there might have been issues financially. There might have been issues with not matching the technology up to the actual market application. There could have been issues with information transfer or having the wrong data along the way. So you can have issues all throughout your organization. And that's why what we do, we modeled something that's holistic, because we needed to. We needed to drive success, and we saw risks and failures. When you go and do that failure analysis, understand root cause, we saw it coming from many different locations. So to do that's why we built the holistic model the way we did, and why this demonstration that we'll show you in a little bit, how it pulls together information really it doesn't matter, who it is that's leading a project. They all have in different types of projects, they have necessary input. But what you're going to end up with is having one single engine that does work for all leadership, as well as people actually executing, people I call it in the trenches, who are actually doing the development work, and have to make something happen along the way. And again, we can pull in multiple digital threads, and you have defensible outcomes. You have a quantitative evidence-based system that's going to show why certain decisions are made along the way. And that's what's going to help people to be more successful. So taking this the next step, now simplifying this down a little bit. Again, we work across the organization, but there's really 4 main stages here, right? And you have selection, management, development, and the decision guidance that's really throughout all this. But in the first place, when you're selecting that
hold on
project,
for me 1 second.
Sure.
Lily, was that a question, or was that do you want to ask the
Yes.
question, or do you want me to ask the question? I want to make sure that we're addressing it.
Oh, yes, this is great. I saw there is a marketing uses, right? I'm currently also developing JAR applications in the marketing space for my organization. So for the tool you are presenting, can we ask questions like, for example, in marketing, we want to engage with our customers, right? Through different channels, digital channels, like we can send the emails, or we can send the advertisement on the website they usually visit, or we can set up we also can invite them to attend our in-person event, like the one we are currently have here, the conference.
Correct.
So different customers have different preferences. So in this tool, can we ask a question like, what is the best way of engaging with, let's say, a specific customer XYZ, and does this tool provide a plan based on the knowledge about this customer and also historical engagement with this customer?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
I'll give you some context. Lily
go ahead.
is on the data science team for HP. She works in the marketing department very closely with the marketing department.
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Tommy.
so they have multiple, as you can imagine, HP's marketing department has multiple customer segments and engagements.
Absolutely.
And so that gives you some context.
And that's a critical
Thank you.
piece of growth. And I understand your question, I think, fully. So thank you for asking that. But yeah, fundamentally, and I can go into this more in the demonstration, what we're doing is we're understanding, what are the interactions with the marketplace, and what's going to drive, what's the effectiveness, right, of initiatives that you're going to have. So should you have, if you want to model, say, 5 different types of marketing initiatives, and which one's going to give you the best ROI, right? Which one's going to be most effective? And that might be different too, depending on what your product is and who the
Gotcha.
customers are in that market segment. Because, if you have, segmentation, you're probably going to find that certain marketing activities are more appealing. Again, with 9 How we talk about appeal, value, and reliability. So you would probably find that certain certain activities can be more appealing and give you more ROI and more bang for your buck, you know, to actually be doing that outreach work than others will. And what 9High will help you do is model those. And this is human in the loop. So this is where the AI agents are giving recommendations. I'm going to explain how we get into the data, the AI agents and everything next. But absolutely, the marketing question is critical. And that's where I really like 9High because, and why we built 9High this way is because we often have a lot of very technical people doing very technical things, and they get overly enamored in a technology itself, and they lose sense of how that technology interacts with the customer base. And 9High forces you to keep those connections in place, because if you don't, then you're not going to be effective in the operations within the business. So we make sure that, you know, we keep those marketing activities and the linkage to the customer and the ROI benefit from the very beginning in the digital thread all the way through. And that does get into just selecting what activities you're going to do in the first place. And then actually when you're managing them and making sure you're effectively bringing the right resources together to do those activities. And then as you're developing and learning about different types of customers, you know, that learning goes into your model. So now the next people who are in your company and doing similar activities will have that, and you'll have the automatic recommendations coming from the agents about, you know, in those prior market segments that you're looking at, what was the benefit and is it worthwhile, or are there risks in addressing those people along the way? So that's how we get into the risk management of doing all that. But we'll show you in this demonstration how it works.
Yeah,
and it's really
Dave,
human AI together that are making those decisions. We'll be making recommendations, but the human team has to actually enact different activities. Go ahead, Mike.
Dave, I can after the demo is done, because I want to make sure people see how the data is brought in and out. I can just quickly say and address a little bit of how the internal and external stakeholders, audiences, and interfaces were looking at it from the Blue Forge perspective, and I think that can help answer some of that really quickly. But let's get through the demo and see what people are interested in.
Sure. And this is just a summary slide, folks. So again, 9High has that framework that's going to guide the expert human collaboration. So this is about bringing different people from the company together and getting the right people on the team, and then using these AI agents to provide guidance to the optimized team. Go ahead, please.
All right, sorry about that, interrupted. Eric, yes, please ask. I don't know how to turn your deal on. I've looked for 15 minutes. I don't know.
I'm going to sue you for discrimination. Listen, I'm not even sure I understand the question I'm going to ask, but let me try. In the context of what we do, we work with, let's say, Fortune 500s, could be Shell, AES, energy companies, so forth, and manufacturing distribution companies, right?
Sure.
Some of the things that we do is connect the physical with the digital. Like your maintenance system or your inventory system or your SAP or your whatever you have might tell you have 100 pallets or whatever. They may or may not be there, and they may, and even if they're there, most people don't know where they are. Yeah. And then the turnaround process comes along and nobody knows where the pallets are, or maybe they just discovered that they opened 20 because they needed to cannibalize it for something, and now the whole turnaround process cannot happen, right? Or things just disappear, you know, and nobody knew they disappeared, and so forth.
Yes, sure.
So then there is these applications where once we go through let's say the infrastructure component, which is whether beacons, RFID, tags, and many ways that we have to capture the identity of things, yes, on a physical level.
Sure. Yeah.
Then you go into what we call lifecycle asset management platforms, right? These lifecycle management platforms can be integrated with SAP or with Oracle or with a maintenance system or all of them. Yeah. And then you're tracking orders or things that connect those assets with the process and the company and the people, similar to what you were mentioning before. And then there is a whole dynamic that is created around the activities that you know go on a daily basis, things that go out, things that go in, things that are supposed to come in, things that are supposed to go out. So in the context of us having all this transactional data available, right, and us having the connectivity to the assets, whether it's people, forklifts, pallets, machines, and so forth, right? How does that connect to what you're talking about?
So that's very good. So what we want to do is, one, NineHigh starts up, say you have an initial project, that you want to determine if you should do some sort of integration, if you're going to use some sort of new technology along the way, and it helps to model that. But when you're actually in it, is we're going to use that transactional data. So, what we're looked and what Michael was talking about is the Blue Forge organization. That's a major organization. They're already $1 billion in size, and they're only a year old. And there we're going to be using live digital threads into those different 9 categories. So and let me just show you. Let me just skip to the next slide here. But when we're in each one of these fundamental categories, this is the framework, okay? And then we determine these are success factors under each of these 9 categories, and they're there to burn down specific risks, right? But what we can do is we can actually have live digital feeds coming into each of these success factors that are in each one of these 9 components of the grid, all right? So for example, if it's operations that you're talking about here, and you're talking about processes that you have, or manufacturing processes.
Are you sharing something?
I should be. Yeah, you guys can't see a screen?
I don't see.
I can see it.
Can you guys see? It's like super small. Yeah. How do I pop out?
Go to view at the top. If you go to view at the top,
yeah. Now I'm seeing. I'm sorry, I wasn't watching anything before. Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, so basically now that's what exactly we'll be doing in Blue Forge, is that we're going to have live digital feeds coming into a lot of these different success factors. So these are all monitoring different areas. And what you can do is, again, when you're, say, developing a technology, these might be relatively static because some of these are being upgraded over time. But if you can doing it to run an enterprise or to be a live part, NineHigh is really that centralized viewpoint that you want to have at the C level, because you can have live digital feeds coming into each of these success factors. And you can tell these, again, you can tailor these to whatever your scenario is. So if you're talking about this as a framework for, say, a manufacturing operation, right? So you'd be talking about what the products are that you have coming through there. And you can look at, okay, so how does the manufacturing that you have tie into reliability? How's the quality tie into the value of the product along the way? The manufacturing process, maybe, like you said, it has to do with, how many deliveries it's being made, what the scrap rate might be, or other process metrics that you're going to have. You're going to be fundamentally tying in each of those data feeds into each of these success factors. And then what you're going to do from that is you'll be able to have a fundamental high-level score of where you are against each one of those. So this can be deployed at multiple instances all throughout an enterprise, whether it be manufacturing or service, doesn't really matter. But if with any given problem set, any given project you're on, there's always a technology or product aspect of what you're delivering. There's always this organizational capabilities, which this is, again, the high level, view. And then there's the application and how it's being used in that application along the way that's giving you the benefit of that project. And so fundamentally, the way that you, again, just to dive into this a little bit deeper, is the way that you read this is at any one time. So you're using this for developing a technology, or you're implementing a technology, or you just want to select a technology in the first place. Well, what you do is you run this exercise against, say, 2 or 3 different options of different technologies, or maybe you're doing the marketing scenario that we just heard of from the other lady just before that, and she wants to understand, okay, well, how are different offerings that they're going to have come in and increase demand for her product along the way, and that's what she's trying to understand. So, who are the people that should be involved in that? What are the processes that she's going to need to execute on that? How much does it cost along the way? How reliable is this marketing activity, that's going to be able to drive demand? But these are the 9 fundamentals that always hold true for the business. It just depends on what scenario you want to run through it at the time. And again, you can use it for, there's like 16 different use cases of how to use this matrix along the way.
Yeah, Dave,
this is interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, and Eric, if I can just jump in as well. And this is marketing, all of the different pieces. At the core, the AI and the human interaction, that engine that helps to generate that graphical report, that engine that sits behind it, that has the interrelationship, whether it's historical live data, whether it's the financial, the marketing, whether it's drawing from 20 different types, SAP type reports, or your automation, or where that is coming from. It's taking it as you set up those metrics and those KPIs, and it allows for that engine to extrapolate, interpret, and utilize that information and how it comes together. So it is a very powerful engine behind it. You see in the graphical piece, but that engine ingests and then processes that data very in a
But can
very
it be,
useful
can this
way.
thing be productized in a way that it's kind of templatized? Like an example,
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
we're
Yeah.
running the Jacksonville International Airport with
Right.
a whole bunch of sensors, from people counting to baggage handling, predictive maintenance, to air quality, and a whole bunch of stuff, right? There's maybe 6,000 airports that could benefit from being
Sure.
able to do this. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because it may not go exactly as you were saying, that you wanted this huge customer tryout, but maybe this is something that can be combined in order to generate these type of county or management based decisions regarding should I change my equipment handling system?
Yes.
Should I
Right.
upgrade that or not? I'm supposed to be implementing a decarbonization program because the mayor promised that, right? What's the story here, right? And things of that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud, but
No, then that's a great example. So again, this is project management. So every project, right, would
I'm gonna
have
jump in,
these
I'm gonna
9
jump in real
fundamental
quick.
components to it.
Dave, I'm
Sorry.
gonna jump in real quick. Number one,
Okay.
Chuck has a question, and then I really do think we need to get to the tool a little bit. So
Yeah, sure. Love
I
to.
want to make sure we preserve our time. Chuck, did
Okay.
you have a question?
Thank you.
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
David, and maybe this is a question to Mark as well. The metrics that you have, I mean, is a whole different word speak than I would say most people in private enterprise actually are doing and are dealing with. If I talk about decision matrix, you get the GE decision matrix, which is either to invest or divest or protect. And there's a whole body of knowledge behind that on how people use that tool. And what I see here is the major problem I have dealing with people now who are, shall we say, pre-revenue to small businesses who may have good technologies that might be usable for DoD. They have a problem understanding exactly the language that you are using. So I'm wondering if you need to actually train people to speak in your language first before they can truly understand the benefits of doing this kind of risk analysis. From my perspective, the term risk is a 4-letter word to most startups. They haven't a clue what risk is. They have a great idea and they think the world is their oasis, that's
Excuse me, a startup is a risk by itself inherently.
Exactly. So
yeah. So and we do have a lot of terminology, and actually, when you go on the platform, I'll show you. We actually have a pretty substantial interactive training program built into the platform itself. But you're right. You need to have people speaking the same language as you're going through. It really only takes a couple of days to get people trained up and understanding how to do it, because it's fundamentally easy. It's taking sometimes very complex problems and breaking into just 9 fundamental pieces that you've got, technologies, products, or services about. You have what you're offering, what you need, right? You have the team that's going to be working on it, and you have the application for it. So again, this is actually trying to take, the last big project I worked on was a hypersonic propulsion system, and we used this for it. You can use this to develop, the next, Sudoku game, on your phone. You can do it for very complex things or very simple things. But fundamentally, the reason why the government locked into this is because it's a framework that always works. They could use it whether they're importing things for COVID, which is who my sponsor was. It was Defense Production Act, and they're using this to understand what solutions they needed for COVID and where they're doing it, and they could do it very quickly. Or if they need to literally start designing major sections of a new aircraft carrier, they can use the same system and the same process. So once you have this spread across the enterprise, going back to those C-level people are going to be speaking the same language and using the same process no matter what challenge is in front of them, which is really important. And even within a company, you don't have that often. So to get people standardized is definitely a huge benefit.
David, I think what I'm trying to say is in order to sell this idea to people, I think you have a language market fit problem, is that you aren't describing problems in their terms. You have to actually educate them in your terms for them to understand what actually you do. And I think that's a huge barrier.
I tend to agree with that, because because the government and the enterprise is two different departments. And if you know, we all know, like, you can have the best idea in the world, but if it doesn't emotionally move me, I'm not going to do anything, right? And words are what move people, right? And so it's got to be in a word that I'm used to, a word that's going to bring either fear, pain, happy, whatever the emotion it is, right? But it's got to be a word that I'm familiar with that's going to bring that emotion. So it's a good point. I think some of that stuff can be changed before we actually start going into some of these enterprise clients, like what some of the terminology we should use. But agree with you. I think it's got to be in corporate terms. 100% agree with that.
Hey,
Now, I just want to say, Mark, go ahead. You go, Mark.
Well, no, you bring up a really good point, Chuck. So Dave is making this available to the enterprise space. He's looking for proof of concepts right now with large enterprises, but it's also going to be available to individual consultants. So you got guys that left the enterprise space, they work in the field now, they know the vernacular, they can use it. But what Dave has also done is he's set up for large enterprise a way to scale it with basically adoption services and training. And certainly I saw the note about, that's where the LLMs come in, and that's certainly true too. But it depends upon the consultant, and it's an easy tool to use, but some of the vernacular might be different, and it depends on what you're using it for. You can use it for software development or M&A activity. So, really,
I think, and let's move on and get to the tool, man. We got 15 minutes. I'm running late, so we got 15 minutes show tool.
Okay, great.
The point that I'm going to make on the endpoint is I 100% agree with everybody's deal is, depending who you sell it to, IT, marketing, PE, the verbiage is probably going to be somewhat different and should be changed, because and I think their point is, you'll never sell the product, right, to train people if the words and the verbiage don't move them to buy it, right? And I 100% agree with that.
So we're going to show you in the demo, folks, just to move forward here a little bit, because we only have 15 minutes left, is we're going to basically show you that we identify risks holistically across the 3 different categories. We come up with these success, and it's human AI working together collaboratively to do that. And then we'll show you how we go through a mapping process between the two to show which risks are going to be burned down and how, and then what the most important activities are that you can take in order to be successful and burn those risks down. And then in the end, it's really all about what we're going to show you in this demonstration project is, you're going to have a certain amount of time, money, and resources to actually get something accomplished. So one, you can use this to select which projects you can do in the first place, and then actually how to execute. So that's what we're going to show you in the demo. We're going to show you also real quick, I just have to tee this up a little bit. There's 3 different levels of data we have. We have human first, and then we have our own embedded database of data from 25 years of collecting. And then we have GPT variants that we have with Microsoft and OpenAI, because we have literally the XCTO of Microsoft on our team. And we have these 5 different AI agents that we're going to show you right now. So I'm going to get you right into the platform here. So what we do when we bring people in the first place is, first of all, the way this is organized is under groups, projects, and topics. The group represents, either the company or say a department within a company. And then, so they actually control all the projects in here. So you have multiple companies on the 9Hive platform, but they all have their own privacy. They set up their own projects, and only the people who are in their projects that they approve can even know that they're here in the first place. And but that does allow some collaboration between companies also on the platform. And what I want to do is show you just real quick that the very first thing we do, and this is actually really important, is that every single person comes in, again, we use this framework to guide everything that we do. So we actually profile each individual person, and we have an automated way of doing this now when we onboard, say, 50 or 100 people at a time now, to basically have their profiles of their product technology experience and skill sets, team and stakeholders, and market applications, so that as we're building teams of people, we know that team actually can understand and address the risks that are in front of them. So what I want to do is take you into a sample project with this guy named Bill Goodman, who does some phenomenal work with nanocomposites. And we're going to search for his company. He allows me to show this to everybody, otherwise you wouldn't even know this project is here. And we're going to view his associated projects. So what he's done first is, you can see that he's built out what we call a brainstorming project or an innovation exploration project. And then from that, you can like you were saying before, templates. Once you have, say, the risks and success factors for a given scenario, you can take and export that over and over again. And that's what he did. He built his first project, and then you just exported 3 projects. You literally do that in a few minutes. And that's a great way of kind of repeating, projects formats that you like from one thing to another. Or if you have slight variance between it, say, for example, he wants to run different product families, or he's going to be selling a different product to different markets along the way, and he has to change those things up. He can just re-export it as a template and then modify it as it sees fit. I'm going to take you into this one specific project. And you can see across the top, there's the management of, you see the breadcrumbs across the top of how this is structured. So you can see his company name, and then that's what his project is. It's steel replacement for high temperature nanocomposites. And then from here, you can see basically the project details. And this is the simplicity of it. We have an incredibly complicated project here that's we're going to make very simple as far as executing on and understanding how to do this. So all you really have to do, so we have large language models in here that have already been trained. All we're really doing is teaching it about Bill's specific project and what he wants to do. And it can be anything throughout the whole organization. So in this case, he's teaching it about his nanocomposite material, and he's teaching the agents and his human team about what it is and what he's trying to accomplish. Except if you remember that cell phone graphic from the beginning, it's the current state of where he is and what he's doing with this project. And then he sets up his objectives, and a lot of this is standard information that he just has from his marketing materials and his business plans. He brings it in here, and he's teaching his human team who are going to work together to address this project, as well as the AI agents that are now learning from what he's trying to accomplish. We have the maturity model, which is called the technology readiness level here. He's starting out at 5 and a 6, taking it to 9. And a lot of this information, like you said, as far as nomenclature and everything, we have a lot of tools built in that tell you what these definitions mean along the way, and that is important. So and we have that anywhere you see a blue field or these eyes in the circles here, or where we're telling people what these things mean so that they can understand how to run this project. And then so that's it. He fills in 2 fields. And now what's important is, again, that framework that's going to be doing all the guidance. At this point, because we have this framework working behind us, all we have to do is put in keywords about what the technology is that he's working on, about his team of stakeholders and what they're looking for, and about the specific applications that he's bringing it to. And that's it. He's now set up his project, and he can go in and start understanding the risks in front of him. So again, remember, there are 3 layers of data that we use. The very first one is humans first. So you have a human team that's trying to figure out, what are the risks in front of them when they're trying to do a particular project. So they put them, you can see that his human team has come in here for the technology itself, for the risks for their organization and the stakeholders. And this could be manufacturing related, or it could be market related is down here in a market application. So the human team has come through first. And then what we do is we then, again, a human team will typically really only capture about 80 to 85% of the risks or success factors that they need in order to be successful. So we're going to supplement that now with these AI agents. And the first agent is Scorpius. And you just click here. It's going to go through our vetted database. So the second layer we have, first one is humans first. We have a vetted database of data that we've been capturing for over 25 years. That's very good and rich. And now you can come through. And this is, again, brainstorming. So, maybe difficult to use. For example, it will come in here as a risk for his specific technology. And we'll show you later how we map that to success factors. But what you can also do, so we have, again, humans first, and then a vetted database. And then we're going to show here how the GPT variant comes in. So the thing to understand, folks, is that even like in the last demonstration that we saw, is that very often people, when they're interacting with like ChatGPT, for example, they ask questions. And the thing that we learned, because we were working with OpenAI before it became a household name, because we were tied in with the CTO of Microsoft, is that fundamentally, when people are working with ChatGPT, they ask questions, but 90% of the time they'll ask the wrong question, or they'll ask the question the wrong way. And what we're trying to do is provide guidance to people so they're going the right direction so they can meet their objectives, right? So what we do is, instead of letting people ask questions, we have this framework that's going to guide them, and all they have to do is put in keywords. So for example, Bill Goodman is working on nanocomposites, and we'll use that as a keyword for technology. And the application he's working on is automated manufacturing. And we'll put in that as a keyword. You can do from 1 to 3 keywords. And then what we're gonna do is now the prompt management's going on behind the scenes. And by the way, everything is, even though we're using public models, everything is compartmentalized into these 9 pieces. So we're really not teaching the public model much about his sensitive project along the way. But we're going to go out here and click on this. You can see it's going out through OpenAI. It's working. And it's now come back. And this is generative, so we never know what's going to happen here. But it's come back with the top 10 risks that he needs to be considering relative to his technology and his application. So now what we're doing is we're starting to understand the risks that are in front of the team in each of these categories. And it's fundamental, it's holistic. So there's going to be no risk outside of these 3 categories. What we're going to do next is show you how we're going to burn those risks down within a project. We're going to leave that page and not save it because this is Bill's actual project. And we're going to show you now the success factors. So again, it's human teams first, our vetted database second, because that's the next layer of reliability. The last layer is going to be using GPT. And then the fourth one, which we do when we get to large enterprise, would actually be to point these agents at the enterprise's data, so that we were using all that rich, relevant data from their enterprise. We talk about the live digital feeds and everything else that would come into these success factors. So that's what we would build into this level. So now we have the human team has come through in each one of these 9 categories and selected what these success factors are that they're actually going to be doing to reach their objective and burn down the risks in front of them. And you know, you can see that the human team has come up with a bunch of recommendations here. But now we want to say, okay, what did the human team miss? And what we do is we just click here. Again, it's the system's already been trained on this project and has learned from this project from the examples he's done before. And now we come up with these success factors that you can select as far as, you know, again, what the team thinks that they can they'll need to do to be successful. And we do the same thing here. So after the vetted database, we do get into the same kind of GPT keywords. And for example, again, we can talk about his nano composites and, you know, what are the success factors that they should be considering for his project for automated manufacturing. And we put that in here over here. So again, we're going to go out through OpenAI and it's going to come back with something with generatively, you know, 10 recommendations that the team should be considering of what to do to be successful along the way. And the thing is again, we're learning we're learning from the success of the projects, what's most important. So as we're developing these templates along the way, it's getting smarter, and actually the recommendations of these engines get smarter too as we go forward. So what we're doing now is actually building out the plan. So what you can see here is that as we've mapped, so we have all these success factors that are all the things they're going to do that they need to burn down the risks. We actually map them here to the risks that we have identified in the prior tab. So this is project management, guys. You know, this is what we're going to do that's the most successful way to bring this project forward. And we're going to link them together and we're going to account for them so we get to see which of these success factors are actually more important than others based on how many of the risks are burning down and the most critical risks. So we come up with a weighting here, and then that's basically what your final project looks like. So we're going to go over to this technology readiness tab, and you can see what his project actually looks like. He hasn't started this yet, but you can see where his initial scores are and his objectives of getting to 9. Because once he has 9s in online boxes, he's by definition reached his objective. So the TRL guidance tab is where we actually link. This is all evidence-based. So he puts in success evidence over on this tab. And the evidence that he puts in is related to each of the success factors that we've just determined. And as you bring in more, you can see here, he's got 2 different reports. He's got one for ceramic armor. He's got another one here for NASA Ames test report that he's brought in. And that's going to come in here as evidence. And you're going to see that here, that he's now increased his success factor by having that evidence along. And you can have this reviewed. You can have the AI agents learning from that and making more recommendations as you go forward. And there's, like I said, there's all sorts of descriptors of what these definitions are, because you're right, there are definitions in here that are very specific, you know, but, you know, we have a lot of interactive pieces here that'll teach people how to use the platform properly. So that's it. That's how we basically set up, you know, what are the risks in front of the team? How do we burn them down? We can, it's collaborative. So for example, you know, we can have, Bill has his customer in here. He has somebody from the Navy that's working with them that helps to understand, you know, more about bringing this material to that specific application. And you can collaborate with each other and understand what does a good project look like that they want to work on together. And what you can also see from this is some of the, if I can go to some of the collaboration tabs we have here. You know, I went through and reviewed his project, and I saw that there are a few risks I think he should add to it. So we have a collaborative capability for people across an organization to come together and make recommendations, because no one person's really going to understand, you know, everything that has to happen to have a successful project for this. So this is about human collaboration and bringing that AI guidance in together. And that's pretty much how 9High works. So open to any questions that people have.
And I think we got most of them we answered during the deal. I need to speed we're 15 minutes behind, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump and see if
Hey,
Lee's
Tommy,
ready.
just real quick, if I might.
Yeah,
just
go ahead, yeah, go
a-
on.
Yeah, just address sort of the language thing as well, because it's something I deal with on a daily basis with Blue Forge and translating DoD into commercial space. And I couldn't agree with you guys more, but the one key thing is as I think you guys can see here, is when you're looking at it from an internal audience versus an external audience, or taking something to market versus how do I do an investment, all these different pieces. Every industry has their own types of languages. And using those KPIs, using that introduction, using those different areas of knowledge that the humans bring to the table, help build that set of information that still moves you towards that goal as you set those goals up at the very beginning. And I think that it is critical that as Dave said very early, it's this dynamic, it's very purpose driven. And one last clarification, just to keep everybody on the same thing. TRL 1 through 3 is really kind of not ready for prime time. For 5, 6, 7 is really moving to prime time. 7 through 9 is we can take it to market. So if you want to put those into the private sector space, same kind of thing. But if you're never moving past that 3 or 4 number in a readiness level, you know, it's a go, no go before you waste your precious resources, both time and money on it.
And by the way, when we, you know, deploy to an enterprise, we can change up labels so that it matches whatever they're more comfortable with too. You know, we can do custom configurations for each customer along with if they like to call something a little bit different. To us, it's just labels. It's the structure behind it's the framework that's going to drive the success. So, you know, maybe the medical industry might be different from the insurance industry, is different from the defense industry. And that to change labels in this is simple.